Good evening. I'll call this meeting to order at 7:02 p.m., regular meeting of our Cromwell Board of Education. Since we just had a municipal election, we do have some business electing our officers tonight. So in order to run this process, we need to appoint a temporary chairperson. So I'd like to make a motion to elect Catherine Russ to be the temporary chair of the Board of Education. Is there a second? Second by Dipty. Are there any other nominations for this position? Or would someone like to make a motion to close the nominations? Thank you, Alan. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor to elect Catherine Russ as temporary chair. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Catherine, you are our temporary chairperson, and I will turn it over to you.
My microphone does not work, so. Here, I'll take Kelly's. Thank you. Perfect. Okay, great. Alessandra, would you please take roll call?
Mrs. Campbell? Here. Mrs. Cloutier? Here. Ms. Franklin?
Here.
Mrs. Kelleher?
Here.
Mrs. Lamberson? Here. Mrs. Post? Here. Mrs. Russ?
Here.
Mr. Schuman?
Here.
Mr. Sabrowski?
Here.
Kevin Riggio? Here. Olivia Polkowski? Here. Jillian Sliz? Here. Charlie Mandigo? Here. Mr. Fortenbaugh? Mr. Netto or Mr. Ireland? Vote is complete.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the election of the chair of the Board of Ed. At this time, I would like to open the floor for nominations to serve as chair of the Board of Education. Are there any nominations?
I nominate Selena Kelleher to be chairwoman.
Okay. Is there a second on that nomination?
I second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations, or would someone like to move to close all the nominations?
I move to close the nominations.
Thank you, Dipty. All in favor of the motion to close the nominations?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. We have a nomination and a second to elect the chair as the Board of Ed for Selena Kelleher. All in favor of that nomination? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes unanimously. And so I'd like to turn the meeting back over to Selena as our new, congratulations, Board of Ed chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for nominating me and electing me as the new chairperson. It's an honor and a privilege to be working beside you all. I'd also like to welcome our new board members. We have Kelly Franklin, Kelly Cloutier, Alan Schuman, and Matt Zabrowski. So welcome. Very excited to have you on the board. And just as a brief overview, we do use parliamentary procedures. I'm sure many of you have watched our meetings or been to our meetings. So that's how we run our meetings. And if we have to consult, we consult with Robert's rules. And as we make motions, you'll raise your hand to indicate aye for in favor of, or state no and raise your hand as opposed, or you'll abstain. If you have any questions as the meeting carries on, just raise your hand and we'll do our best to explain everything. Generally, when we have presenters, we'll wait until the conclusion of the presentation, and then I'll ask if there are comments and questions, and that's the time at which you can raise your hand and we'll go in order. We're also hoping to have new board member training, which is also for existing board members, so it's always really helpful, and I know that we all mentioned a date for that, so I'm looking forward to that. It'll be very helpful to all of us. So next on the agenda, we'll need to elect the Secretary of the Board of Education, and I would like to nominate Catherine Russ as Secretary of the Board of Ed. Are there any other nominations for this position? Is there a second? Thank you, Dipty. Would someone like to move to close the nominations?
Move to close the nominations.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Second? By Matt, thank you. All in favor of electing Catherine Russ as the Secretary of the Board?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Congratulations and thank you to our new Secretary of the Board, Catherine Russ. All right, next on our agenda is approval of the agenda, which includes any additions and deletions, and then an overview of the highlights. Before we do any highlights, Dr. Macri, do you have any additions or deletions to go over?
I do. I would like the board to amend the agenda. We are not ready for executive session. The unit is, the administrative unit still has to ratify, so we hopefully will be ready by next time. We just received it on Friday from council, so they just didn't have time. So amend that, and then also, unfortunately, we will not be able to celebrate our WIS faculty, staff, and students this evening. Something came up last minute, and we'd like to move that into our next meeting.
Okay. So other highlights would be the fall data update, which are test scores, and then a review of Veterans Day plans, which is coming up. Is there a motion to approve the amended agenda? I saw Dipty first, second by Catherine. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. The agenda is approved. So from there, we'll move on to correspondence. Dr. Macri, is there any correspondence?
No, none at this time.
Okay. And before I read the rules for public comments, is there any member of the public that would like to speak? Going once? Going twice? Okay. No need to read that then. And we will move on to our student representatives. We'll start with the middle school. I'd like to start with Charlie or Jillian, whoever would like to begin.
Cromwell Middle School Student Council is holding their annual food drive and Spirit Week this week. Each day, students are encouraged to participate in different Spirit Days: Cromwell Pride Day, Hat Day, Sports Day, Red, White, and Blue Day for Veterans Day, and Flannel Friday, as well as bring in non-perishable food items for the Cromwell Food Pantry. The girls' soccer ended their season with a loss versus Ram. The girls played hard and scored 3 goals. The first was scored by Sophia Gagner off an assist from Emily Hickey. The second goal was scored by Emily Hickey. The final goal was scored by Kylie Brisson. Congratulations to the girls for a great season. Congratulations to the 8th graders who played their last middle school soccer game. Captains Emily Hickey and Hayden Vandersloot, offense Kylie Brisson, Shauna McNeil, Sophia Gagner, Ryan Thorpe, Veronica Hamblin, Lily Tice, Taylor Moody, and Daniela Spaniotis. Defenders Rachel and Lauren Carta, Gabby Pereira, and goalkeeper Maya Caserta. Good luck at CHS next year.
Select Assemble's jazz band and select choir have been rehearsing Tuesday and Wednesday mornings before school with healthy participation. Students in band are making progress with their music literary skills through performing, rehearsing, and analyzing music. Select choir auditions took place back in September. Mr. Borgeson accepted 10 new members, and they also have been rehearsing since then for the upcoming performances. Chorus classes are back at CMS. They started at the beginning of the second quarter. Also, the Drama Club is thrilled to announce that they will be performing Matilda Jr. As the musical this year. Auditions are November 30th and December 2nd, and the performances will be on March 25th to the 27th.
Thank you both. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Okay, well, congratulations to all the 8th grade athletes, and I'm looking forward to Matilda. That sounds really fun. And we'll move on to the high school.
For general announcements, Cromwell sophomores and juniors have completed their PSATs. Cromwell High School had a successful COVID-safe pep rally outside with games and fun competition between students. Student Council helped during Trick or Trunk by donating their time and candy. They received many compliments. The first quarter of school ended last Monday. Seniors painted the shed down by the track, marking their final months in Cromwell High School. The CHS Drama Club returned to the stage on Friday, October 29th, with friends and family in the audience. Students put on the Brothers Grimm Spectaculon. The production was wonderful. CHS will host its first annual homecoming bonfire on Friday, November 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. The National Guard will provide inflatable obstacle courses, and there will be games, music, a homecoming court, food, and a bonfire. The National Honor Society had a successful induction ceremony on November 3rd, and the Spanish National Honor Society and French National Honor Society are preparing for their induction ceremony, which is to be held on November 16th. Last Monday and Wednesday, teachers also held a parent/guardian conferences.
For sports, the fall sports season is coming to an end. The girls' soccer team was undefeated in the regular season with a record of 11-0-6. They are currently in the state tournament and will play Watertown tomorrow in the second round. The football team is also currently undefeated with a record of 7-0. Saturday, they will play against Coggenshaw and East Hampton. The boys' soccer team had a game today against Jonathan Law in the state tournament. They unfortunately lost 12-11 in PKs. The girls' volleyball team officially finished their season and had a great season. The girls' cross-country team ended with the state opens. Izzy Coe made second team all-conference. Congratulations to all athletes.
Thank you both. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And as you know, you can stay as long as you'd like, but also feel free to leave whenever you'd like. Reports of liaisons from the Town Council and Board of Finance. I don't think they're here, so we'll move on to superintendent's updates and responses to Board of Ed comments and action items from our prior meeting. Dr. Macri?
Sure. First, congratulations and welcome to all the new board members. And the rest of you are stuck for a couple more years. There's a lot of new learning to do, but I'm so grateful for all of you. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it does take time away from your family. So I appreciate all of you, and I look forward to working with you in the best interest of the two people sitting next to Mr. Zabrowski and Mr. Schumann. They're the most important people in the district. We're really lucky to be able to serve these children, and I look forward to doing that with all of you. So, I know you're all excited about hearing the reopening plan update, but that's pretty much all I have to always talk to you about. So we can wait and do that in the next portion of the meeting, if that's okay with everyone.
Sure.
And move to presentation and reports, if that's okay.
Okay. So we'll move on to presentations and reports of administration. It's reference A in your packet, the 2021-2022 budget update. I'll have Ann Burke come on up to give us, can you give us sort of an overview for those of us who haven't seen this before?
Sure.
As well, thank you.
Sure. I'm Ann Burke. I'm the Director of Financial Services. Once a month, usually at the first board meeting, I put together a report, a projection for the prior month. So that's the document that has the grid lines on it. And I also include just a brief memo, just a few highlights. And this takes our entire budget, which is the column that says current budget. You'll see our budget for this year is $32,750,000. I will always list the expenditures to date. And then the next column is anything that's already encumbered out of purchase order, so purchases that we know we are going to be making in the relatively near future. And then there's also forecasted expenses that we don't necessarily know today, but we anticipate them. The best example I could give is substitute teachers. We know that throughout the course of the year, we're going to have sub needs that we have to fill and we're going to have to pay them, but we just have to estimate it at this point. So that's an example of an item that we wouldn't put on a purchase order, but we do anticipate paying. So we do our best with a quick calculation of past history to be able to project something such as that. So the fourth column is our balance column. At this point in the year, we kind of fluctuate depending on what our best guesses are for our forecasts. At this current time of the year, we have $434,000 that is neither encumbered or forecasted. However, we do know that additional expenses will come. We may have an outplaced student. We may have changes in other lines as well. Maybe we need an additional paraprofessional. So there are things that we have to be aware of. And so this is how I look at the big picture of the budget. As part of my role for the district, I look at literally every expense that's made. Every purchase order does come through my office and I do approve them. Our administrative assistants throughout our schools will attach documentation. The principal is the first level of review, and then I'm the second level of review. So we have a very close eye on how our money is being spent, as that's my biggest responsibility.
At this time of the year, things are trending okay. Again, I kind of outline in the second paragraph of my memo some of the things that we are forecasting. And as we go throughout the year, I'll talk a little bit more about different types of grants, such as the excess cost grant. That's specifically for our very high needs students. And the state will help us with those costs once they meet a certain threshold. And we have to project that because although we may know what our costs are right now, we don't know what children will need as the year goes by. Or maybe children move out of the district and maybe children come into our district to us. So that's part of our estimate is trying to make sure we understand what those costs may be and adjusting when they do occur or perhaps don't occur. Are there any questions that I might be able to answer for you? Catherine?
I don't have a working microphone, but so our certified salaries includes substitutes. However,
Yes.
our substitutes aren't necessarily certified as teachers are, correct? So what does the
in
certified
order-
stand for?
They have to have a bachelor's degree in order to be a substitute teacher. So we do consider them certified.
Okay, and this question is more for Dr. Macri. Do the same exemptions that applied last year for substitutes that we had, they were a little lax in some of the areas due to the lack of people we had? Is it still in place for this year or no longer?
We have not had to, they are in place, but we really have not had to utilize. We do, Michelle's shaking her head, yes, for some instances, but if we can stick with certified and we can stick with following the old rules, we will. There have been some instances, unfortunately, that we've had to utilize the flexibilities, but we do our best to not have to unless we really have to. Last year was a completely different story. Much better this year, thank goodness.
And do we know why our employee benefits are so high right now? And, I mean, we believe they're coming down, but is there...
The benefits are a little harder to project, and we're working on, that's one of our goals for this year is to kind of look at that a little more closely. We do have positions that have not been filled, and we do attribute a certain amount of cost for those positions. So that is an example of something that might not yet be set aside because we haven't done hiring. We also have to figure into the calculation the amount of money that TRB pays for our teachers that we are still covering. They're not eligible for Medicaid. So there's money that comes in from the state, and also we also have some retirees, and so it's kind of a moving target, and we're trying to really pin down and understand that a little bit better. So it's something that we're working on.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Burke.
Sure.
Old business, we have none listed. And so we'll move on to new business, which includes the reopening plan update.
Yes. So, as you all heard the governor speak last week, all wonderful information comes in little bits and pieces as far as how we can try to get more of our students to stay in school and not be quarantined. So they developed a screen and stay plan. After looking at it very closely, you'll see I have the PowerPoint presentation and the 10-page, if not more, guidelines. Myself and Nurse Jillian, our supervisor, and I'll have Jillian come up as well so she can fill in the blanks if I miss anything. We would like to adopt, there is no reason for us not to adopt screen and stay. However, it's not as glamorous as we thought it might be, but it's a start in the right direction. So what is screen and stay? Screen and stay is really for students and staff who are not vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, the rules stay the same. So if you're unvaccinated or partially vaccinated, and the only way you can remain in school after a close contact is under the screen and stay whatever we want to call it, initiative. So there's a few things that I want you to understand. It happens in the classroom. So in the classroom, we've been doing pretty well with not having to we contact trace all the time. So contact tracing is not gone. We still have to contact trace regularly no matter what happens. However, in the classroom, you're allowed to be 3 feet apart from each other if you're students. The adults still have to remain 6 feet apart from the students and each other. We've done pretty good so far, with the exception of a couple situations that, of course, we couldn't help in that area. The nice thing is the only time the students really have their masks off in class is when they're having a snack, and that's at the elementary level. We limit snack to about 10 minutes. We make sure it doesn't exceed the 15, and we haven't really had any issues. So we've left it at that. We could, if we were to see issues, we could have a rotation. So some students will eat snacks, some students would wait, and then every other student would eat. But we haven't had the need to do that, and that gives the students the opportunity to talk a little bit more. And so far, so good. So we're gonna stick to that plan. We haven't seen transmission in that way in district. So that really doesn't change anything from the classroom. The big change is the bus. So our students obviously are not sitting 6 feet apart on the bus. They're 3 feet or less sometimes. And screen and stay allow you. We still have to contact trace. We will still notify parents if their child is a close contact. And you will get all this information, as those of you that are in the board, you'll all get it tomorrow. A letter will go out tomorrow. You'll get a letter, 2 letters. There's an attestation form. So parents who decide, and they don't have to do this, they can say, we don't want to do this. We'd rather quarantine our child for 10 days, or we'd rather quarantine for 5 days, get tested on day 5, see if it's negative, come back on day 8. That is up to the family. But we will allow for the screen and stay. And the way it works is, and they just changed this yesterday, thank goodness, after superintendents having a little bit of a nervous breakdown. Parents were going to have to do this checklist, daily symptom screening checklist every single day for the whole 14 days and send it back. It would not have been operational for us. No one could have done it. So the good thing is parents only have to sign the attestation form once if their child is about to participate in screen and stay. And basically what they're saying is they understand the requirements, which will be outlined tomorrow in the letter. And they understand that this only applies to in-person learning or work, because this is for adults as well. It does not include, and this is we wanted to see a little more flexibility, but they are not willing to grant that flexibility, DPH, as of yet. We won't see this reprieve in team athletics, social activities. We also will not see it. So if a child becomes a close contact from home, it doesn't count. This is just for school. And it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're screened and you stay, it doesn't mean that it'll stay that way the entire time. You have to remain symptom-free, and it could be the parent, but also could happen during school when they go and see when the students go and see the nurse or the adult. And also, it hasn't changed anything for athletics. So if you are part of screen and stay, you can come to school and we monitor. Everybody monitors. However, you are not allowed to participate in athletic activities until the quarantine period is up. So we were hoping to see a little more flexibility, but we did not. The things that we have talked about that are the nitty-gritty details that they didn't think about, band and chorus and PE. So if you are participating in screen and stay, you are close contact, you can go to band and chorus. You can't sing. You can't do anything. It's funny. Anything that is going to make you spread aerosols. So singing, you have to keep your mask on. We know that everybody does at this point. You could mimic the words, you could, but you can't sing. You can remain within the distancing that we have in the classroom, and we'll monitor that. If it gets if we see spread, we'll go back and we'll talk about it. I don't anticipate that we're going to, but I also said that about a few other things that we saw this year that happened that we did not expect. That surge of 32 kids that were positive within 2 weeks. We didn't expect that. Chorus, band. You can hold your instrument and you could, do the fingering of the instrument. You just can't blow into the instrument if you're a close contact. What am I missing about those two things, Jillian? Am I missing anything?
Not about those two, but you're going to talk about gym?
Yep, that's next. PE. You can participate in PE, but if the class is jogging, you can't jog because that exerts too many aerosols, and you will have a specific program for you. So you might be doing yoga for those few days, but you will still be participating in that. And everything will remain the same throughout the day as it is right now. Nothing else will change. Did I miss anything on that end, Nurse Hansen?
No, but obviously if you come down with some symptoms, even one symptom, then you would be required to go home, and then it would revert back to the test on day 5, come back on day 8, or stay out for the 10 days.
And then the other piece is the athletic activity piece. Do you want to just talk about that?
Yeah, so if you opt for screen and stay, you are not allowed to participate in the athletics, at the high school or the middle school level. And that we would revert back to the original addendum 5, which says that for athletics, you have to test on day 8, and then if it's negative, can participate on day 10 or stay out for the full 14 days.
And so this does not apply to the cafeteria because the students are unmasked for about a half hour. So we can't screen and stay if you are a close contact of someone in the cafeteria. And those are the major, that's what all of this says. I want you to know we still have to contact trace. I hope not to see an additional cost with overtime, but if anything, this has made it more paperwork instead of less paperwork. But if it means keeping more kids in school, then we'll do the paperwork, and we will do the best we can with what what we've been given through the DPH and CDC and the local health department. All these decisions are made in collaboration with the local health department. We were supposed to meet yesterday. We couldn't even meet because the guidance didn't come out until 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon. So we had to listen to the meeting this morning, which was good because so for those of you that don't know, over the last, since the pandemic started, I participate, and so does Ms. Hansen and Mr. Neshi, who's our health coordinator. We participate in weekly calls every Tuesday, 8 a.m. with DPH and all superintendents, health directors, legal counsel. They're all on the call, and we get to listen to all the updates and all the changes and ask questions. And as you can imagine, this morning was slightly heated, but I guess it's a step in the right direction is the way we kind of have to look at this. But at the same time, slightly disappointing. The overall message, and if we're not reading between the lines, is vaccination for everyone, really for everyone. And obviously, we're not telling anyone to get vaccinated. I would not want anyone to tell me to have my child vaccinated if I wasn't comfortable, and I would not want to do that to any parents as well. So I don't know what will happen next. I was at HASA, which is Hartford Association of Superintendents. I'm part of that group as well. And there were about 40 of us there this afternoon, all masked, sitting. And they did ask some preliminary questions about how we felt about having students who are vaccinated unmasked versus students who are not vaccinated masked. And that's a really touchy subject, because if you're vaccinated, you should be able to not wear a mask. But what about our students who are not or can't? Then they're singled out. It's mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings about it, as I should, as the person who's looking at the students. But we'll wait and see. But otherwise, that is what will happen. So tomorrow, a cover letter will come home with the attestation form, and then a nice little daily symptom screening checklist for families to hang on your refrigerator. And if a parent declines to attest, then the student will have to be quarantined. And that is all that we know as of today.
Are there any questions, Catherine?
Okay, I have 3. So the first one is thank you for putting the effort in to make sure that we can start to use this for our students who, I know my neighbor has been quarantined 4 times before the end of October, which is a lot. She's missed a lot of school time. But when is the start date for this?
Okay. We started it.
Okay.
It'll come out tomorrow.
Okay.
It was meeting after meeting after meeting for
Okay.
myself, and poor Jillian we had no sub nurses, so it'll get done. If you let me leave tonight, I'll type it up tonight and I'll send it out tomorrow. It'll be out tomorrow.
So question number 2 is this I'm assuming at the elementary level, this is going to be a big challenge, especially for our gym teachers that have to find other activities for students to do so they're not running at all, because getting kids to not run period is difficult. So, and I think the band and course teachers are going to have their work cut out for them too. Is there going to be more of an effort needed from teachers in the classroom to keep track, or is their job pretty much going to stay the same from everything?
Their job will stay the same. The nurse, go ahead, Jillian. I'm sorry, I'm speaking for you. There's a procedure that we've.
Yeah, generally speaking, we don't tell the teachers who's exactly quarantining. We try and give minimal information to keep the confidentiality of the people that are quarantining. So this will increase that, because those teachers will have to know who's a close contact. So we will have to generate lists and probably update daily, because that could change daily. It might not. You know, when we had 32 cases the other week, that would have been changing hourly. But you know, the last 2 weeks have been fairly good, knock on wood. So, you know, there may be days that we wouldn't have to do any updates. But it definitely will, you know, change. It's another step, right? It's another step in the process.
So
They won't have to do as far as they just have to keep an eye and make sure that and they're always making sure the students have their masks on. As far as an alternate program for PE and for band, I don't see, our teachers are used to differentiating instruction for so many other reasons. Is it going to be a pain? A little bit of a pain, but I don't see it as anything that's going to be astronomically out of the question. They're used to differentiation for many reasons. We have many kids who can't participate for various reasons in certain select sports, or when they're playing competitive games or whatever, and they're used to coming up with something different.
We have no control over sports outside of the school district, just the ones at CMS and CHS, and that is it.
The only person outside, they work with Mr. Neshi. He is allowed to question them and do whatever. We're told who's quarantined, and we just
But we don't.
comply.
Does he know who's screen and stay, or no? Like, will he
For-
know who's quarantined
no.
for sports purposes, or?
It doesn't
We
apply to
wouldn't share that
sports.
information.
Okay.
It doesn't apply. So
Yeah.
if the exposure is during a sport,
No.
No,
If
if
one
we
of
screen
our
and stay.
students falls under the screen and stay, they're not
Uh-huh.
allowed to do sports at Cromwell
They're
public
not
schools.
And they're not supposed to do sports, period. But That's a great question. Relaying that information to the coaches, volunteer coaches.
Are we allowed to do that, or is that a privacy issue?
It's a privacy issue. We're
That's
not
what I
allowed
thought.
to. It's up to the parent to communicate
Okay.
it to the sports team.
And
No
I
one's
have-
policing it on this end. It's none.
No, we have
can't.
enough on our plates.
Right.
We don't need to do that. We can ask for parents to be responsible. But my final question is, lunchroom, obviously, if we were sitting close together and she was positive, I'm unvaccinated, I have to quarantine because we're unmasked, correct? But if I'm under a screen and stay instead, I'm still allowed to sit at a lunch table. She's not vaccinated. I'm not vaccinated. Neither one of us are positive, but I'm under screen and stay. I can still sit next to her at the lunch table, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll see. Let's see how it goes. That's a major concern that we
Yep.
all had. Let's hope. We've been so careful and we've done a pretty good job. Let's take a little bit of a leap of faith. And if we see that there's spread or transmission, then we have to come back to the drawing board and reassess. But right now we feel that we can do this. And we have to take data and we have to make sure that we pay attention. But loosening up to this, we feel we're not 100% comfortable because we just don't know.
Well,
but
we'll never
we're
be
much more
100% comfortable, so it's a step in the
It's
right
a step,
direction.
right.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
thank you for really working to get this in place for us quickly. So we all appreciate it.
Sure.
Board
Nope,
members,
of
parents,
course.
everyone.
We want our kids here. We want them safe.
Matt.
Just two questions. The first one is you mentioned that with the screen and stay, let's say a child has a close contact on Friday, and so the parents are notified. They elect the screen and stay. Child comes to school Monday, everything's fine. They're being screened. Comes to school Tuesday, same. Wednesday they show one symptom, so now they have to wait 5 days to test. When does that clock start for the test?
Good. That's a good question. So the 5 days is 5 days from the symptom or the contact. So,
Okay.
so if the contact was on Friday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So Tuesday would be the fifth day, and so that if the symptoms were on Wednesday, you could test that day. You'd still have to wait till the 8th day to come back.
Okay, so I appreciate that answer. And one other question, and this one's this one's for you, Dr. Macri. In your meetings with DPH, I know that we've been hearing through the press and so forth that there's some talk about having vaccination centers in schools, that the state is potentially seeking this. Did they bring any of that up with you? Did they say that?
My notes are right here. Thanks for reminding
These
me.
glasses are good, they're not that good.
I know. There's so much to remember. I actually took the notes and put it on the back. So right now we have talked about it and we are on calls weekly and we can participate. However, what is happening is Mr. Neshi, we work with Stop and Shop, Walgreens, ShopRite, and CVS, and he monitors all those testing sites. He looks for surge in capacity. The town has not reached anywhere near a surge in capacity. So at this point, someone could show up tomorrow, get a shot, and be all set. There's no pressure to have a clinic in school. If something was to happen where it was just so tremendous and we couldn't handle it anymore, all the outside providers couldn't handle it, we would then look into partnering with one of them, or maybe a CHC. But right now, CHC isn't partnering with anyone right now, not with us, but which is fine. And then we would then say, okay, we need a clinic. But right now, the conversations and a lot of pediatricians, and I don't know what you've heard, but a lot of pediatricians are telling they're telling people to wait to see how it goes before they get their child vaccinated. So some people are waiting, and other people, like a few people in this room, have signed up 3 weeks ago and are ready to go. But right now, we don't have the need to do it, and because most of the kids who would be vaccinated are the little ones, we are also reluctant because of giving a child a shot in school without their parents and the whole thing. So let's see how this goes. If this doesn't go well and we start to see a surge, we will definitely partner with someone and do something.
So if the request was made, would that be a decision you would make, or would you bring that back to the board?
That decision has to go to Sal, for Mr. Neshi. So I wouldn't make that decision. Oh, so if we were to do a clinic,
Yeah,
we
if they
would
were
just
asked to do a
make
clinic on school grounds or.
Yeah, if we saw the need to do a clinic on school grounds, you could be at the time we wait to come back to the board. It takes so long that we would do. Yeah, we've had clinics before. The part of the piece of allowing me to make some of these decisions is so that we can expedite it. But right now, we don't need it. If we saw that we needed it, I would. We talk probably 2 or 3 times a week with Mr. Neshi. It's down from 2 to 3 times a day, which is nice. We would do it immediately, but right now they don't have. There's
And
no need.
When we did do the high school, we did a clinic here at the high school when it was opened up for that age group, and it was voluntary. So it was not. It was, if you wanted to get vaccinated, you could sign up.
That was the 16 and older, and then the 12 to 15-year-olds, the school district partnered with Beacon Pharmaceutical, and you could sign up through that and go, it was at
The
Berlin Fairgrounds, right. So
yeah.
we did have 2 different variations, but both great options for students because it was harder to get appointments back then.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Your point about the younger kids being a little bit different, that's kind of where I'm concerned about. If it moves in that direction, parent involvement, support for the kids.
I always try to think. I don't have I have nieces and nephews. Some of you don't know me, but when I first got the job, I said I will never do anything that I wouldn't want done to my nieces and nephews, and I wouldn't want them to have a shot, and I don't think they'd be all that comfortable without their parent there. I don't like having a shot without knowing I'm going home and my mom's going to be there. That's what I did with the booster. That's just the reality of it. So because there is opportunity and parents can be with their children and make the appointments, we don't have to rush to do it. If that was to happen, we would, and I probably would be like, can we let the parents come in and be with the child? Because they're not going to want to get the shot by themselves, poor babies. They don't want to get them with, at the doctor's office. And that's another thing, too, that pediatrician said, because we have Dr. Milanese is our medical advisor, is that if they were to have an allergic reaction or something immediately, they do feel more comfortable if they're in their doctor's office, and that makes sense. So we'll hold on that and see where it goes and keep rethinking all of this daily in our sleep, right, Mrs. Hanson?
Yes.
I just have a quick question about PE. We're not allowed to participate in PE, but what if it's outdoors? Is that different if you're running outdoors? I mean, the gym classes are often held outdoors, correct?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
So if it's outdoors, and half the superintendent said the only thing is that you're not supposed to be running within the distance of other children. So then we would have to have the discussion of singling them out. But
They're already singled out.
Exactly. So in reality is they're already singled out because they're doing a completely different activity. So we're really going to leave it up to the feel of the teacher and the student and the activity. Right now we are asking for teachers to really think about the type of activity that they're doing. Because it's instructional and it's not like athletics, you're competing. In school, you're supposed to be playing, but then teaching, there's that break, right? Oh, good, Charlie, you're shaking your head. Am I doing a good job? Right? You get instruction. So your heart rate's getting up, but it's not really as much as if you were playing a sport. So we think we're going to be okay. And then I'm sure Charlie and Jillian and Olivia and Devin will tell us when we're doing a bad job, right? Very good.
Do our student reps have any comments or questions, concerns? Charlie?
What would happen if, a child starts showing symptoms after the screening or time period? Or what if, a family member in the household started, feeling symptoms and then the child gets symptomatic but still tests negative? What would we do then?
That is a great question. Nurse Hanson, would you like to take that?
Sure. So I think you're talking about two different sort of situations. So if you were at the screen and stay, and let's say you were at school and you started to feel sick, and you went to the nurse, then if you were symptomatic, you would be sent home, and you would be allowed to test on day 5 and come back on day 8 if it was negative, or you could choose to stay out for the full 10 days. If a person was had a family member that was sick, they would have to test positive in order for that to be considered a close contact. And so we would just go through that whole tree of if they're positive, then they would be a close contact, and then you would have the same option. Test on day 5, come back on day 8, or stay out for 10 days.
Gotcha, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Dipti.
Previously, you had to have 2 symptoms, right, to be sent home, and now it's just 1 symptom.
So 2 different sort of scenarios. If you have not had a close contact, you just come down with symptoms and you have no known contact, it still has to be 1 major symptom or 2 minor symptoms. With the screen and stay, the reason they're saying 1 symptom is you've now had a close contact as well. So you've had a close contact and you've developed a symptom. So that's sort of you're much more likely to develop symptoms and have COVID if you've had a close contact, a known close contact. Does that make sense?
That does. Will there be like a specific set of symptoms?
It'll be the same. Yeah, it's the same symptoms, but they aren't differentiating between a key COVID symptom.
Right.
Typically the ones that we see as 1 symptom are a new cough or a fever above 100. Those are the ones that we typically see. There's others like loss of taste and smell, chills, that are 1 symptom. And then the ones that we see more commonly are the headaches, sore throat, stomach ache, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. So any 2 of those if you haven't had a close contact.
Jillian, you have like a flow chart in your
I
head at
do.
all times, I think.
You literally just listed the symptoms
I
in
dream.
order. I looked.
Well, I was just wondering how successfully the screen and stay would be if, like, let's say a student just got a headache, and that happens a lot. Like, are you going to see more kids be out of school because of that? Or just the same amount as if they quarantined?
Well, are you saying with the screen and stay?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit more stringent with the screen and stay. So let's say you are a screen and stay student and you come down to the nurse's office with a headache. We will then have to send you home.
Right, for the full.
Well, then you'll have the option of testing
5.
on day 5 or staying home for the 10 days. So
Dipti, I don't think it would be more because if you would have been home anyway.
Right, no, that's
So
what
that-
I was
yeah,
getting at.
yeah,
It might
yep.
be kind of the same depending
It'll pretty
on-
much be, right. It'll just save you those first few days, and then you'd have to go home. If you get symptoms on day 2, then you're right. It kind of may only save you 1 or 2 days. But if you have symptoms and there's a chance you have it, we still want to have you go home and get tested.
And really, we're still asking parents, even when you test on day 5, the reason I get asked a lot, why do we have to wait till day 8? Well, you still can develop symptoms up to 14 days. That's what it used to be. If everyone, can remember, it was 14 days. So we still ask that you monitor for the full 14 days because we've seen it happen on day 10, 11, 12, and 14. So, that's all been the same. And if let's say you test on day 5, it's negative, and you then develop symptoms on day 7, you shouldn't be coming back on day 8. You should be testing again.
So overall, I think that it's a little disappointing because the original declaration, or whatever you want to call it, sounded like the spirit of it was risk versus reward, keep kids in school, largely doesn't affect children, and that there weren't many positives resulting from quarantine. So I feel bad that it's putting more burden on the school district, and I'm wondering if, I know we don't have a meeting coming up that soon, but can we kind of quantify how many students this is actually helping not be quarantined? Not to give you any more numbers to keep track of, but just generally, I can't really get a sense for if this is really going to help.
We kind of know. We can't give finite numbers, but typically speaking, in most quarantines, we're all only, we're pretty good in the classroom. It's the bus and the cafeteria.
So they'll help with the bus, but not the cafeteria.
No. Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jillian. Any
You're
other
welcome.
questions? Okay. And next on the agenda, we have the fall data update, reference B in your packet. And I believe it's Dr. McLean coming up, right?
Yes,
Want to introduce
Dr.
her?
McLean,
Director of Curriculum.
Director
for
of
those you-
Curriculum and Instruction. Yeah, sorry.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to all of our new members. I'm going to give you just a real quick overview of what our accountability data is. I thought this was a good time just so we can kind of get an idea of where we are. I know we've already talked about SATs, but I put it in here just so that the new board members could see. This is really sort of what we're considering our baseline data. The state has said, we have nothing to compare it to because we didn't have assessments last year. So we're kind of looking at this as, this is where we are. Once we have our assessments, this year, this spring, we'll get data in the fall and we'll be able to see how far we've come. It just, of course I looked, right? Like you can't not look at where we were 2 years ago. There were some places, we've dropped for sure. But there are actually a couple places where we went up. So I feel like we're not in a terrible place with this data. But I thought I would just kind of really quickly give you an overview of what the accountability data looks like today. And then, like I said, this spring, I'll come back to you with a much more comprehensive data presentation that will include our own internal data with our iReady assessments. And then we'll actually have something that we can compare it to. So you can kind of see where we are and where we've gone. And at that point, we can kind of do an analysis of how our interventions have worked and what adjustments we may or may not need to make based on what the data shows us at the time. So these are Smarter Balance Assessment test results from this last spring. So we broke it down by grade, and this is all the percentage of students that are above proficiency. And you can see how many students took the assessment in the parentheses. So that's the N. That's what you call the number of kids that have taken it. Wait, go back to that one. On the top is our ELA, and on the bottom is our math. You can see that our grade 3 students in math did really well, which was interesting to me because all throughout last year when we were looking at our internal data, our grade 3 students did really well. So it was really great to see that the data was sort of triangulating and showing the same outcomes for them. It was a great, strong grade 3 class. So across the board, about 50% of the kids are at or above proficiency currently. And these are our secondary students, 6 through 8.
I understand that we don't have anything to show because we didn't do it last year, but the percentages do seem low for being at or above.
Depends on the grade level. I would say if you're going to compare to 2 years ago, we probably lost between 5 and 10% ground.
Very
it's
common,
pretty common. Yeah, I would say that we
considering-
were actually probably didn't lose as much as some other districts have lost. Right. But it's still it's still concerning when you lose that percentage. I did notice that where we had the most proficiency to begin with, we lost the most ground. So if we had a higher level of proficiency to begin with, then that's where we saw the most loss. That was a trend that I saw, kind of repeatedly in different grade levels, regardless of whether it was reading or math. We do have some
Carrie,
wins,
that's
though.
That's good because it shows you that it is directly related to instruction. The instructional opportunities, whether we want to pretend that it didn't happen or it did.
Right.
They were lost. So where we had higher proficiency, loss of instruction,
We lost ground.
greater
Right.
right.
We lost ground.
So we lost ground.
It also means that we should be able to gain that ground back fairly quickly because those students were at one point at proficiency. They're not necessarily intervention students or students that we're concerned about for any other reason other than loss of instructional time. So we should be able to gain that ground back fairly quickly with our strategies that we're using internally. And last but not least, go ahead, you can. Oh, I'm sorry, NGSS first. You can go ahead. Really not terrible in the NGSS world. This number here at grade 11 is significantly higher than it was 2 years ago. So we gained some ground too. I think we were at like 38% proficient in grade 11 before. So, I mean, we gained significant ground in grade 11 there. So, you know, some wins too, big wins in the data that, you know, we're really happy about, especially considering the circumstances. So you can go ahead. And SATs, which we've already shown, but I figured we could put them up again. We saw a little bit of a drop. Usually when it's 1%, I call it kind of flat, you know, if it's plus or minus 1%, and a little bit of a gain in math from the year before. We did have SAT scores from the year before, so we were able to do a comparison. Do you guys have questions about the data? Yeah.
I might have asked this last time, but what was the benchmark again for SATs for proficiency?
The cut score?
The cuts, yeah.
I'm not sure what the cut score is. Like, you mean like the range of what they're calling proficiency?
Right.
So there is a range that they're saying, like, if you're at this point, and it's different for math and reading. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but the state has like a, you know, they say you're either red, yellow, green, or blue. Okay. And so these numbers represent the green and the blue combined.
Okay. And then my other question was just how did we compare to other schools in our DERG?
I would say that we are, if we fared, I would say a little bit better than most districts in our DERG. It seemed like, you know, nobody fared well, but we did fairly well comparatively. I mean, I could do a whole, like a presentation if you wanted to see the comparison. I do think that would probably be more valuable to do it once we have comparison data to look at. But I looked at it obviously just kind of holistically, and I would say that, you know, none of it looked great, but you know, we certainly were not the worst. Oh, you do? What is it?
Can you just
You wanna
come on
come
up
up
to the
here
mic so
so
that
you-
everyone
yeah.
can hear you?
Yeah, so this is just reading.
Yep, that's the reading one.
Yep, and math. So it's 480 for reading, and it's 530 for math.
And that's considered college or career ready, according to the College Board.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? Comments?
Like I said, I'll be able to give you much more data this spring once we have our internal assessments, and it'll be good to see because we just started using iReady district-wide this year, so we'll be able to then see how is our data and the growth that we made over the course of this year comparable to what we're doing on our accountability assessments. So as someone that really likes data, that'll be, I think, really interesting for us to look at.
And do you think you'll include some DERG information?
Oh, yeah,
at
yeah.
that time in the spring?
And usually I do like, you know, how we fared in terms of reading and math and all of that, but since we don't really have a comparison.
No, you have a general sense for it, so that's good for tonight. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Block lost my agenda. Oh, here it is. All right, so moving on to new business item C, review of Veterans Day plan. Are you calling the principals up, or are you going to give us?
Yes,
Okay.
I was going to. We
Just
actually
that,
are
right.
doing some wonderful things. So we're excited. We've all had to adapt. I think our students and our staff have done an amazing job. So I can't wait for you to hear about it. And we can start with Mr. Tuno, ECS.
Hi, everyone. So at ECS this year, we have asked any parent, ECS family, if they would like to create a very short video, if they have a veteran in their family or a friend, and they have been sending us the videos in, and we're going to be watching them in our classrooms. We even have some veteran employees that have created some as well, so we're really excited about that. We're also going to make some cards and letters to thank our veterans, and we bring those to the Veteran Hospital.
Okay, thank you. Just as some quick background, we moved to holding school on Veterans Day, I think 3-4 years ago. I don't know if it was before you. Before you. Don't say 10 years.
It was the October snowstorm. It was 10 years ago.
10 years ago? Okay. Wow. Wow. Well, some districts still have the day off, so it's always been a really positive thing. Wow. 10 years. Okay, do you want to call Mr. Butwell up next? Okay, Mr. Butwell from Woodside. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So at Woodside, we have a couple different things going on. Each grade level does a read aloud and a language arts lesson around that. It's differentiated for each grade. So that's part of their in-class learning. There's also a variety of social media and video clips that students look at to try to gain a better understanding of what Veterans Day is all about, and understand that veterans are all around us and they're in our community and in our families. And then previously, pre-COVID, we used to have veterans come into our classrooms. We would poll the community, and if there were relatives or family friends who wanted to come in and actually speak to students, we would invite them in, and they would give a short talk with the students about their experiences serving their country. So last year, we switched that over to a video format, and so we invited members of the community to submit a video, and we strung them together into a nice little montage and then shared that out with the school. The silver lining to that was that we found out that family members who don't live in Connecticut were able to participate. So we were getting actual videos from people that were in service somewhere else around the world or halfway across the country. So that was really nice as well. So that's Woodside.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Ann Cochiola from Cromwell Middle School.
Hello, everyone. For the middle school, during our advisory period tomorrow, we will be working with all the students all at the same time for grades 6, 7, and 8. We're going to watch a short video on the history of Veterans Day. We had done that in the past and also had our speakers, and we look forward to our speakers coming in live again. But for now, we're going to watch this video, which is a great video geared for our students to watch about the history of Veterans Day, and then we're going to create Thank a Vet postcards where we're all going to write a message to our veterans, and all our kids will sign it. And then the next day, on Thursday, our student news team, along with Mr. Kiss, will be going up to the town hall to their ceremony, and we're going to live stream it so the kids can watch it and participate, see our community participate in a Veterans Day celebration as well. And the beauty of it is they can also watch it later on if they don't get to it right away. So we have that opportunity all day tomorrow. So, and I just want to give a shout out to Andrew Kuckel, because he had talked about that with us about the high school doing that. So I joined our kids up to go up with him. So it'll be great. And we get to watch our high school kids playing the band and stuff as well. And our middle school students will be able to watch our high school kids participate as well. So we're looking forward to that. A little different than what we've done, but looking forward to either way. We'll have 2 days of celebration for our vets. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Andrew Cuckle, Cromwell High School.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cochiola. No shout out necessary there, but appreciated. Yeah, we're really excited about this year. We always used to hold the pre-COVID. It was actually a really awesome assembly in our school auditorium, and we'd have our veterans here. We did a Veterans Day breakfast and everything. Obviously, COVID has still changed that, and hopefully next year we'll be able to get back to some normalcy in that sense. But in the meantime, it's really opened the door for a collaboration, I'll call it, that we're very excited about. And it came to my attention through Richard Donahue, actually, who is our he's a substitute teacher that works for us, and he is like essentially a faculty member. He has been with us for so long, and he works with the town, and he is the keynote speaker, and so he got us in touch with the town. And so what we're doing is, like Ann said, we are sending our school news broadcasting team, who will be able to live stream the event to our students here at the high school. We're actually splitting up our lunch so that way everyone can watch it live at the same time. And we do have our band going there. We do have one of our students singing the national anthem. As I said, Mr. Donahue will be giving the keynote address as well. And then we have our news broadcasting team, which that's a great, just real world skill for them to apply that in that setting. So we are running that event. And then another collaboration that we have is with the Cromwell Food Pantry. And we are working on donations to make to the food pantry in a few weeks on behalf of Cromwell veterans specifically. And then we're doing some other things as well. Various organizations are doing letter writing campaigns to Cromwell vets. And we are wearing camo. That's been a popular thing for us in the past. So wearing camo or something related to the military branches on that day as well. And so that's what we're doing at Cromwell High School. And we're very excited. And we're going to share that link out. And we would include your link as well. We want to share that out to as many people as possible. And I've reached out to Covenant Village as well, just to try to get it. We want to get it out there as much as possible, because we think it's a great event. Obviously, it's a small event. You can't. It's not outside. You can't have everyone there. So hopefully, when you get that link, you can share that along. It would actually be streamed on our YouTube channel, so you could send that to anybody you want, all over the country, if they'd like to sit down and watch that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cockle is a little humble, so he has also been invited to speak. The American Legion, Richard Henderson, reached out and asked him to say a few words at the ceremony on Thursday. So that is quite an honor as well. I thank everyone, all of the administrators, but it's not easy, obviously, to celebrate during COVID, but they've done a fabulous job, and I'm just excited that our students get to actually go somewhere and do something, and our staff is going to be able to join them and say a few words as well. So all did a great job. Thank you. Looking forward to seeing everything.
And I'm sorry, did you say a link would go out to the board, or could we
we'll
send that? Okay.
Well, we will send it most likely out to everyone.
To everyone.
And, yeah.
Great. Okay, next on our agenda, we have an action item, approval of minutes and motions from our October 26th regular meeting, reference C in your packet. So if you're new, you can abstain from voting on this. Is there a motion to approve the minutes and motions? Dipti, second? I'm like, who is here? Jen, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And then, so we have Alan Schumann abstaining, we have Kelly Cloutier abstaining, Matt Zabrowski, and Kelly Franklin abstaining. The motion passes. We have quorum. And item E, approval of Board of Education meeting schedule, reference D. And those are our regular meeting dates. Is there a motion to approve this schedule? Alan, thank you. Second. Jen, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Schedule is approved. Item F, approval of Board of Education committee meeting schedule, reference E. Is there a motion to approve? Alan, is there a second? Okay, saw Dipti's hand first. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. The committee meeting schedule is now approved. Item G, Appointment by board chair of committee members. So we have two official committees on the Board of Education, and it's Facilities and Technology, which is basically exactly that, our facilities, our buildings, our grounds, and technology. So all of our technology, including our Chromebooks and things like that. Anything else I'm forgetting in that category? All those items are on our agenda. So on that committee, I currently chair that, and then we have Jen Lamberson, and Alan Schumann will be joining, along with Kelly Franklin and Matt Zabrowski. And then we also have Policy Committee, and on that committee we have Lori Cantwell, Catherine Russ, Kelly Cloutier, and Dipti Post. And we go through on policy and update policies that need to be updated, and also create new policies as they're required by legislation. Is there a motion to approve the committees? Jen? Second? Dipsy? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries, and the committees are officially approved. Thank you very much. Just as part of that, I just want to mention, sorry. Oh, I'm
Did
sorry,
you,
Lori.
you didn't specify who the chairs are for?
I think we can do that at the upcoming meetings.
Okay.
Because it was Jeff, correct, on policy?
Yep.
So we'll have to assign a new one for that committee, and we'll hopefully also assign a new one for facilities and technology, because that's me. Okay, so also we have a district leadership team, which is not an official committee, but it's we do have two board members that usually attend if they're able to. Lori is on that committee, and we will need someone else to fill in if possible. So if you're interested, just let me know. And that's basically, along with the board members, there's administrators and the superintendent, and they go over evaluations and district goals, mission statements, etc. So that's an opportunity for someone. We have security team, which I'm currently on, and then town council is something that we'd like to rotate through, so we can talk about that. They're generally second Wednesday of every month, and we go and give just a brief update to the town council, and it's usually at the beginning of the agenda, so it's pretty quick. And then we have our Board of Finance liaison, and that's Catherine Russ. Hopefully she'll continue to do that for us.
Sure.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have to set, it's an action item. We're going to set the tuition rate for 2021-2022. And that's reference F in your packet. And so correct me if I'm wrong, but for new members, this is basically the budget divided by the number of students. Is that correct? Or do you want
And
Mrs.
I'm
Burke to
sorry,
come
yeah,
up
I need
and explain it?
Is she here? Oh, there she is. Interestingly enough, we've had a few local pupils from neighboring towns who are paying tuition to come to Cromwell, which is a nice thing.
Yes, you are correct. We just take our budget that was adopted, and we take our PSIS, which is our data collection system for student enrollment, as of October 1st, straight division calculation, and that brings us to the 16,934 for the 21-22. I'm sorry, what year are we in? 2021.
22.
22.
Oh. Yeah,
And I
you're
think,
right, you're right.
I think the, you can see at the bottom, each year is calculated out, so you can kind of see the progression of it year over year, straight calculation.
And it will never decrease because the budget can't decrease. Correct? Correct. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions, comments? Okay, so we do need to take action on that. Is there a motion to approve the tuition rate? Jen? Is there a second? Matt, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. The tuition rate is approved. Item I, school committee update regarding CMS. Dr. Macri, would you like to give that update?
Sure. So we are slated to present, meaning the team, myself, Mr. Litwinzik, Dr. McLean, Miss Cochiola, and Miss Burke, and Miss Kelleher at the next town council meeting, which is on December 8th. Please, please, please attend. I think it's very important for the Board of Education to be in the audience. We will be presenting factual reasons why we need a new building, operational reasons why we need a new building, but then even just as important or even more important is programmatically. We are very outdated, as you all know, and we need to hook our students in the middle school. It's so important to hook them, and we'd like to take a STEAM approach. For a few reasons. One, that is basically preparing our kids for college and career. Also, we are losing most of our students to magnet schools are going to science and engineering, STEM-related schools. So we want to stop that from happening because I truly believe that they can earn that education here, right here in Cromwell. So when we present, we really are presenting why we need a new building. And we're also going to ask for the town council to appropriate about $100,000. We may not use the entire 100 for an architect to work with us so that we can discuss what it would look like for a new school or versus a renovated school. And then we'll also be asking for the town council to vote on forming a building committee, because right now the facilities committee is serving as the ad hoc kind of. We're getting the updates. We're working with CSG, which is our owner's rep. We went out to bid. They won the bid. They've been working with us, and they've been working with us for quite some time. I do believe that there is an appetite in the town for a new middle school. We need it. And then shortly after, we need a new ECS as well. We have to look at the districts around us. Rocky Hill, Middletown have just built brand new beautiful buildings recently. We don't want to get behind because, like I just said, we have a couple of kids, which is great, that are actually tuitioning in. We are not going down in enrollment. If anything, we're stabilizing or increasing. When you look at districts in our DIRG, they're seeing the opposite. So we want to continue to have that, and it really has a lot to do with the offerings that we could give to our students, and they deserve it. They deserve the best. So we're going to give it our best shot, and hopefully at the town council meeting, it's one step at a time, and it's pretty. The process is pretty intricate. I do have all the steps here. And I keep questioning Marianne Sylvester, who's been wonderful to work with at the town. She's answered many of my questions about the charter so that we do not we will face barriers because it's a challenge, and but so that we can get through those barriers as quickly and as we possibly can so we can move forward. So next step, December 8th, town council. And then from there, we'll then go, I believe it's the following week, might be the 18th. I'll let you know at the next meeting. We go to the Board of Finance to make sure that they know about the appropriation, ask us questions, and then actually make a decision to vote on that appropriation. And that's the next step. And then form a building committee.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are there any questions on that? Okay. Next, we have a stipend to approve, item J, and it's reference G in your packet. And Dr. Macri, is this a new stipend, or are we just filling this position with a different person?
We had someone else doing it. The person resigned. We filled the position, the teaching position, and that usually it goes along with that position. Okay. It doesn't have to, but it usually does. And so that person has now accepted the role as the facilitator.
Okay, great. Are there any questions on that? Okay, motion to approve. Catherine, is there a second? Kelly? Kelly Cloutier, that is?
I know.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Stipend is approved. We also have just an informational item, and it's reference H. table of organization for 2021, 2022.
Yeah,
Dr.
so-
Markey, you want to take us through this?
Sure. This is our organizational chart, and I just wanted to share it with everyone so that you have a little bit of an understanding of how it flows. That doesn't mean that people can't contact me or contact a principal before they go through someone else. We do like to follow protocol respectfully to our teachers. We do ask that any issues with families, parents, it will be very easy for people to have those conversations with you. And so you want to guide them to always reach out to the teacher first, because the teacher is the closest to the student and they can resolve the issues if there are any at that level. If that doesn't work, of course, then it goes to the principal, assistant principal. And usually things get resolved there because it's the closest to the situation. However, there are times when situations have to go to the directors, come to me, come to Dr. McLean, come to HR. That is all, of course, acceptable. We just do encourage people to follow the proper channels because we want to make sure that the relationship stays in place with the people that are the closest to the student. And this is just so for those of you that weren't sure, we have our directors listed and then who reports to each of our directors. And then you'll see some dotted lines of like people who report to a few different people. And that doesn't necessarily, that means they could work with them. It doesn't necessarily mean a supervisory role, but they report to two different departments. And this is just for your knowledge.
Is it possible to get some names associated with these
Sure.
positions?
Good point.
You know what? I actually have that too.
Okay.
I can send that to you. We send it out to the staff, and it tells you their names and a little bit of the description of what they do. I will send that to you too. Sure.
Any other questions on that? Hearing none, we'll move on to another informational piece. This is Human Resources Personnel Activity, reference I. And Michelle Demaro, would you like to come up? This is our Director of Human Resources. Is your mic on?
No.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So good evening. So this personnel action is something you will see on a monthly basis. On this personnel action, you'll actually see all new hires, retirements, resignations, and you'll also see vacancies that we might still have and that we're looking for. These vacancies are usually always posted on our website, ApplyTrack, CT Reap, colleges, universities. We pretty much go out everywhere with all the postings. But it kind of gives you an idea of what's open and what has been filled. And again, this is something that's done pretty much once a month.
Thank you. Are there any questions about what you see? No one has any questions? I had one. Well, first of all, congratulations on finding a contact tracer.
God help us all.
But the math tutor and the reading tutor, I feel like I've seen those often on this. Have we not filled it in all that time, or do we keep losing people? And what do you attribute that to?
Well, it's a little of both. So right now, the economy is a little difficult with finding people to work. These are part-time positions. They're grant funded. So many times we are hiring these people into these 19-hour positions, and then they're growing with us and accepting another position, whether it might be a building sub position that's 5 days a week or a paraprofessional position. So as soon as we hire them into one part-time position, they're moving to full-time.
And are we pretty much comparable to what other districts are paying for these positions?
For the tutors, yes.
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 Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And then we also have principal reports, reference J, K, L, and M, one for each school. More informational. Are there any questions on those? None? Okay, we'll move on to policies. We have none tonight, but if we did, we would have a first read. Those are just initial comments after they come from the policy committee to us. And then you'll see a second read, which we also do not have any tonight, but that would be where we would approve or attempt to approve the policy. Board committee reports, we have nothing for policy and nothing for facilities and technology. We also have topics for future agendas and possible action to approve additional topics. If there's anything you'd like to see in the future, this is where you'd let us know and we could possibly add it to the future agendas. Okay, hearing nothing, we'll move on to comments, updates, and announcements from board members and administrators. Where would you like to start?
I can start.
You want to start?
I would like to, even though he's not here, hopefully he's listening, I would like to publicly thank Mr. John Flanders for being a board member for a very long time. Very well respected, very knowledgeable. He will be greatly missed. He pushed the envelope every once in a while, which was really good for all of us, always with the best interests of students at heart. I have the utmost respect for him, and we did drop off a gift for him in appreciation for his service to the Cromwell Public Schools, especially our students, and all the time that he participated on committees and anything that we actually needed him to do. So we thank Mr. Flanders, and I wish him very well, and maybe he'll run again in 4 years.
I agree. Anything from our administrators? Okay, and how about our student representatives that are here? No? Okay. Mr. Dabrowski, would you like to start? And you're not obligated to have any comments, just if you'd like to say anything. Now's the moment. Okay. All right. Jen? Lori?
Just to echo what Dr. Macri said about Mr. Flanders, we will definitely miss him and thank him for everything that he did for our district.
Okay, thank you. I agree as well, and welcome to our board once again. Looking forward to working with you all. Catherine?
Yeah, welcome new board members. John definitely did a great job challenging all of us. He will be missed, but I'm excited for the new members we have in place. Also, just wanted to say I'm looking forward to winter sports starting up, where our student athletes can come into the schools unmasked. Hopefully that will send us in the right direction, and that eventually we can start having more and more family members coming in. We all know how I feel about our parent-teacher conferences.
They went well.
They went well. There were there were hiccups in the ones that I was on, unfortunately, but overall they went well. But it will be nice if we could start it was nice to be in for certain events for some of my kids, and I know other parents are appreciating it, so we're going in the right direction. Thank you.
Kelly? Dipti? Okay, Alan?
Talking about training next.
So we are hoping to have training on December 14th at 7 p.m. Did you want to discuss about, are we going to be able to cancel the meeting before?
The December 7th?
Yes. Do you want me to move forward with that? Okay, I just want to make sure you want me to move forward.
Sure.
So we would cancel December 7th because our board's counsel, Jessica Ritter, is not unable to make it that evening, and she can make the 14th. So she will provide training that evening, and it'll be about 2 hours. And then anything extra that you'd like to do, I'll send your way.
There's a few of the
I always send
a few of
it
the
to
acronyms and things I've got
I'm so
caught up
sorry.
on. So
oh no, Alan,
right.
I'm so sorry.
That's fine.
We are the world of acronyms and education. We will do our best to not use them. And if you catch us, just say, what does that mean? NGSS that you saw up there, Next Generation Science Standards.
Okay.
I was going to have Carrie do it.
Okay. And what was that, DIRG or something?
DIRG is district reference groups. So they look at our social capital, money, financial capital, and there's a list. You can actually Google district reference groups, and you'll get a list, and you'll see where we are and who's in our DIRG.
Okay.
And I can send that to you too.
Thank you.
Okay. And feel free to ask me for anything else.
Okay. All right. Well, on that note, is there a motion to adjourn? Catherine, second. Dipti, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Meeting's adjourned at 8:30.